Dark Myth, Wukong, Chapter 33, Azure Flame. Following Bashen En's furious roar, the armor he wore suddenly flashed intensely, then began to melt. It transformed into a mass of deep blue flames. Facing this fire, Sun Wukong felt as if he had fallen into an ice pit. A wave of extreme cold assaulted him, seemingly wanting to freeze him solid. This was merely a wisp of aura leaking from the flame, yet it was already so terrifying. If this flame were to touch even a tiny spot, it was feared that even the soul would be frozen solid. However, Sun Wukong's hands were severely injured from forcibly grasping the two firelights earlier. Although the firelights were extinguished, his hands were practically crippled. Not only were his palms scorched black and mangled, the meridians and bones in both arms were also damaged. The meridians, corroded by the scorching power of the flames, were now completely unable to circulate magical power. Sun Wukong stared intently at Bashen En opposite him. At this moment, the final form of Bashen En's 6 spirits, 8 forms, Azure Flame, had been fully unleashed. His entire body was enveloped in ethereal blue flame, and the flames on his hands burned even more fiercely. Suddenly, Sun Wukong's pupils widened, as if witnessing something unbelievable. In the next instant, a figure appeared out of thin air right beside Sun Wukong. The speed was incredibly fast. Sun Wukong only had time to cover himself with a layer of earth element defensive armor. But this armor seemed utterly useless. With just one punch from Bashen En, Sun Wukong was sent flying backward. The protective earth armor shattered instantly, and a scorched black fist print appeared on Sun Wukong's abdomen. Although the injury wasn't severe, the victor was decided in this exchange. Sun Wukong hadn't seen how Bashen En appeared beside him, or how he disappeared from his original spot. This indicated that Bashen En's speed had reached a level that Sun Wukong's eyes couldn't follow. It must be known that Sun Wukong's fiery eyes' golden gaze was always active at its maximum capacity, yet he still couldn't clearly see his opponent's movements. One could only imagine the level Bashen En's speed had reached. After being sent flying by the punch, Sun Wukong knew that if he didn't make a decisive move, he might very well be obliterated by Bashen En. Bashen En's terror lay not only in his speed but also in the azure flames on his fists and body. Sun Wukong's body had been tempered in Taishan Laoyun's Bagua furnace, and later fused with Neja's metal attribute Divine Stone and that serpent pearl. His physical body had reached the level of a high saint, perhaps even touching the limits of this world. Yet, he was still injured by a single punch from Bashen En. Furthermore, the ice fire power contained within those azure flames was incredibly bizarre. After entering his body through the abdominal wound, it seemed to possess a life of its own, silently splitting into 2 forces. The ice power burrowed directly towards his dantian, while the fire power rampaged towards Sun Wukong's heart, leaving destruction in its wake. Fortunately, Sun Wukong still had an unabsorbed metal attribute Divine Stone within him, which promptly released 2 streams of metal power to envelop the invading water and fire powers. This prevented Sun Wukong's injuries from worsening, but it also filled him with extreme alarm. That was just 1 punch. If he took several more, even the metal power within his body probably wouldn't be able to stop the invading water and fire forces. Sun Wukong knew that if he didn't go all out now, he might not get another chance. While still airborne, Sun Wukong glanced at Bashen En out of the corner of his eye, then used his body's momentum, gathered all his strength, and threw the Golden Cudgel towards him. As Bashen En watched the airborne Sun Wukong and prepared to pursue, he saw an ethereal golden light speeding towards him. Bashen En scoffed at the incoming golden light, preparing to dodge with his unparalleled speed. But just then, something unexpected happened. A red sash shot up from the ground and tightly wrapped around Bashen En's legs. Left with no choice, he could only opt for a direct confrontation. Although Bashen En was confident he could tear the universe ring apart in an instant, he wasn't sure he could dodge the incoming golden light. Bashen En brought his hands together and pulled them apart, revealing an ancient-looking turtle shell shield.
Azure Fire Technique. Turtle Flame Shield.
In the next moment, the incoming golden light struck the flaming turtle shell shield fiercely. Having blocked the attack, Bashen En intended to retract the shield and pursue Sun Wukong. But he suddenly felt the shield in his hand, trembling incessantly. Looking closely, he realized the golden light was the Golden Cudgel, and it was currently spinning rapidly. As the cudgel spun, the point of contact on the turtle flame shield was quickly thinning. He believed that within 3 breaths at most, the Golden Cudgel would pierce through the shield and strike him. Bashen En certainly wouldn't sit idly by. He immediately tilted the shield. At that precise moment, Bashen En witnessed the most terrifying scene of his entire life. Sun Wukong, who should have been sent flying by his punch, was gone. In his place stood a colossal, golden giant ape, and at that moment, the giant ape raised its head and looked directly at him. What kind of eyes were those? Cold, malevolent, tyrannical, yet exuding an aura of absolute supremacy over heaven and earth. Bashen En had no time to think. Merely being glanced at by his opponent gave him the feeling of being targeted by an ancient vicious beast, as if any slight movement would result in ruthless slaughter.
Ah! Azure Flame. Origin Fire Realm.
Under immense pressure, Bashen En didn't choose fear, but opted to unleash the greatest power of his life in resistance. Instantly, Bashen En activated the full explosive state of the final form of the 6 spirits' 8 forms, Azure Flame, the origin fire realm. As soon as this move was unleashed, a world of flames began to form centered around Bashen En. The entire world glowed red, filled with lava, volcanoes, various strange fires, pools of fire, fire spirits, fire beasts. Anything related to fire could be found within this realm. Everything this flame world touched was instantly annihilated, whether it was the ground or the ice mountains. Just as the flame world fully formed, the Golden Cudgel began to tremble violently. Then with a whoosh, it seemed intimidated by the flame world and escaped into the void. As the origin fire realm continued to expand, Bashen En could wait no longer. The ice blue wings on his back had now turned crimson red. With a flap of his wings, Bashen En flew towards Sun Wukong at a speed that nearly tore space itself. Clearly, he intended to pull Sun Wukong into his flame world and attack him with the anomalous phenomena within. Although he still felt some apprehension towards the current Sun Wukong, his confidence in his origin fire realm was far greater. Ever since he had mastered this technique, no matter how powerful or troublesome the opponent, as long as the origin fire realm was unleashed, he was invincible. At this moment, Bashen En felt there would be no exceptions. Even though this opponent was formidable, his fate would be no different. While he might not be able to kill him, severely injuring him was definitely possible. Lost in thought, Bashen En had already arrived before Sun Wukong. Whether out of fear or some other reason, Sun Wukong remained utterly still. Bashen En couldn't help but sneer inwardly. So what if you're the great sage equaling heaven? Aren't you still about to fall to my strongest attack? But just then Sun Wukong, who had been standing motionless, suddenly swayed slightly. Then, before Bashen En's disbelieving eyes, Sun Wukong's colossal body executed a half-turn, and a gigantic fist flew straight towards him. In the next instant, a thunderous explosion erupted. Amidst the explosion, Sun Wukong stood firm and unmoving. One hand grasped Bashen En's flame world, while the other punched relentlessly, again and again, against it. The first punch merely caused the flame world to tremble slightly. By the 5th punch, it began to shake violently. By the 10th punch, a small crack appeared. After the 33rd punch, the flame world shattered with a deafening roar. Afterward, Sun Wukong extended a single finger, and with a look of contempt, flicked Bashen En away. In truth, after transforming into the giant ape, Sun Wukong had intended to kill Bashen En. But at that moment, a distant, ancient voice echoed in his mind, which was why Sun Wukong had stood stunned for a moment. Therefore, after shattering the flame world with brute force, Sun Wukong didn't kill Bashen En, merely flicking him away, because that voice had told Sun Wukong Bashen En was his guide, the one who would help him obtain the water attribute Divine Stone.